Okay, this morning for worship, I'm going to be reading to you from this beautiful book. It's called Beholding and Becoming, and it's by an artist. She did all of the design inside of the devotional, and then she also, of course, wrote the devotional. So it's just my own personal devotional time, but I thought I'd share this one with you because I thought it was really powerful. This one is called The Art of Everyday Worship, and it's really going to address the line that I'm sure you've heard before. It's called Beholding, We Become Changed, right? So beholding is to look upon or to experience or to be around, and then to be changed. So we know that that's a very biblical belief, and also just a philosophical belief that many of the Enlightenment philosophers held. She says, a relatively short time ago, we didn't have an online life. Tweeting was for birds, posts were for fences, and text required ink. The advent of mobile devices brought a fundamental shift in the way we engage with our world. From the coffee shop to the subway, it isn't hard to find someone head down in their cell phone. Isn't that the truth? I see that like all the time. Sometimes I'm in like a waiting area or something, and I'll be like, don't get your phone out, read a magazine or talk to somebody. And it's like, it's really hard to do. We've been given so much to look at, but we are missing the art of beholding. So beholding is to look around, to experience, to watch. We are so captivated by our technology and all that it puts before our eyes that we overlook the ways that God displays his glory through creation, through relationships, and through ordinary circumstances in our day-to-day. We're kind of stuck right now, stuck in our houses, stuck in our communities, stuck with our families. And sometimes technology is, I'm guilty of it too. It's like my major thing, like I'm making videos for you guys. I'm like on Instagram posting cute videos of my child. I'm watching television. I'm like technology inundated right now. And I really appreciated this just kind of out of the blue worship because I feel like it really spoke to me. We look for a dramatic way to experience God, but his presence and transforming work in our lives happens minute by minute. So sometimes we're like looking like, where are you, God? Like, why aren't you speaking to me, or why aren't you this? And he's like, no. Daily, I want you to worship me moment by moment throughout the day. Are you looking for me? Are you beholding me? And I think that's really what she's asking us to do. William Blake may have been the first to say, we become what we behold. So we become what we see, what we experience, what we're around a lot. But the Apostle Paul certainly defined true beholding and becoming for us who long to become like Christ. He says in 2 Corinthians 3:18, we all, with unveiled face, behold the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. From this comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. We are being transformed into his likeness by looking intently on who he is. When I was an art student in college, the author writes, I spent one semester studying the work of Georgia O'Keeffe. I was living in New Mexico at the time, where the artist was well known for having painted from a remote ranch in the desert from the 1930s to the end of her life. As a budding artist myself, I was enchanted by her body of work, her consistent style, her sense of identity, and her fearless expression in her art. She elevated a flower's most overlooked secrets and made grand experiences of its petals and its sumptuous lines. Studying her work wasn't simply acknowledging facts, what brushes she used, what kinds of paints she used. It wasn't a mere intellectual acknowledgement of her incredible, prolific work. No, to behold her art was to gaze upon it in awe, in wonder, and a willingness to let the beauty change me somehow. So parallel that with Christ, right? It's not enough to just know the facts, to just memorize the Bible, to be the best Bible bull pathfinder. It's to behold, to look for him in your life and to let that beauty transform you, to look for those love notes that he leaves for you throughout your life. I perceive nature and even influence techniques that I use now from her in my creative work. So by beholding her and looking at all of that, she is now utilizing that in her own art. It's changing her life. It's changing her testimony to the world. Before you discount yourself as a worshiper, I skipped a part. If admiration and study, even emulation, can cause us to see and respond in an impactful way, how much more so worship of reverence and an adoration we will have for God. So she's comparing this to worship. She was kind of, in a sense, worshiping that artist's work, in awe of it, emulating it, practicing it. And then she says here, before you discount yourself as a worshiper, well, whoa, I'm not a worshiper. That's like super religious sounding, or that's super like serious sounding, or whoa, that's creepy. You shouldn't worship art or worship that, you know, those kinds of things. Paul David Tripp reminds us of this. Human beings, by their very nature, are worshipers. Worship is not something we do. It defines who we are. So he's saying this out of the spiritual realm. He's just saying that human beings worship things. We love to idolize things. We love to emulate, to copy. I mean, look at Instagram, right? People's houses, the way they live, the way they dress, the way their children are, the way their living rooms look, the way their closets look. I mean, we are like worshiping, we are emulating, we are beholding, we are watching, we are just trying to become that. That's like a natural thing. People have very much compared like a sports stadium, right? The way that we just like worship and adore and go gaga over sports figures, guys and girls, right? Just this like insane amount of passion and focus and trying to be like them and becoming and beholding them. It's a form of worship. And humans naturally are inclined towards this. He says you cannot divide human beings into those who worship and those who do not worship. He says you can't separate like that. This isn't like a religious or non-religious thing. Human beings were made to worship. Everybody worships, he says. It's just a matter of what or whom we are worshiping. So the question isn't like, are you a worshiper or not? You are a worshiper. You are a worshiper. It's what are you worshiping? Our jobs, our relationships, our reputations, our treasures. These are just a few things that compete for worship. We were made for one worship and one satisfaction, but our taste buds are skewed and our appetites are formed out of kind of that godly focus. The question isn't whether we will use our everyday moments to worship, because we will. We will spend our days. You're stuck in a house. You will worship something. That's like an innate human response. You will worship food. Maybe you're constantly paying attention to food. I know that's been on my mind a lot, right? I feel like all I'm doing is cleaning the kitchen because we're making just tons of food. You might be worshiping your phone. You know, you're down there going away at it. I'm guilty of that. You know, I've spent way too much time on that. Maybe you're just worship entertainment, all the different forms of entertainment, television, it could be entertainment of music. Just you get so busy in your day that you're not looking for him in your day. It might be worshiping other people, right? You could be like using this time to really be watching your favorite influencers. You might be using this time to write, letters to a best friend somewhere. That might be good things. None of these things are bad. They just are becoming your everyday worship. How we direct, this is powerful. In the midst of ordinary places, people, sights, sounds, joys, and pains, we will find a way to worship. How we direct our eyes, our minds, our hearts, and our hands in the everyday will determine whom we ultimately worship and what we are ultimately becoming. That was really profound for me when I read this morning for my devotions. How we direct them will determine, not like might, not like, no, it will determine what we are becoming and who we are becoming like. And it just, it's a pause. It's not a get rid of everything, start burning CDs and all of that. It's just a pause. It's just a reflection of, what are my eyes? What is my mind? What is my heart? What are my hands in the everyday? Not on the Sabbath, not when people are home, not just all the time. Am I beholding him? Am I looking for him? That doesn't mean you need to be reading your Bible 24/7. It doesn't mean that every single thing has to be focused and hyper-focused on this religiousness. No, that's all good. Have your devotions. Have your morning and evening prayer time. I mean, these things are all good. But it's saying in your everyday, day to day, Are you checking in with God? Are you submitting your will? Are you saying that, ooh, I've spent this much time on this. Maybe I need to spend time with my family. Maybe I need to invest in the relationships that I have in my home. Maybe the last 3 nights I haven't come down to supper because I was so into my worship. And I'm going to go down and spend time with them. Maybe I'm going to get out in nature. Nature is one of God's incredible books. He says second to the Bible. Ellen White tells us that too. The first textbook of your life should be the Bible. And the second textbook, she tells us, should be nature. Have you been out in nature? Have you gotten outside and even bundled up in the cold and said, hey, God, what have you made out here for me? Well, one of them is vitamin D. We need it to survive. So get out there, get your 10 minutes in at least, even on a cold day. He has created so many ways of beholding and becoming like him. Don't forget to be looking for that. And really, look at this line. How we direct our eyes, minds, hearts, and hands in the everyday determines who we ultimately worship and what we will ultimately become. Don't let it be a threat. Don't let it be something that's scary, that, oh, I'm going to become something terrifying. No. Make it be a joy. I get to direct my heart, direct my hands, direct my mind towards what I want it to become. The question is, what do you want it to become? Ask yourself that today, tonight, throughout this week. What is it that I want to become like? And then start focusing on that. Start putting your aims and your goals and make it a joy in your life. Lord, I'm looking for what I want to become. What do you want me to become? And make it a joy, not a burden. Never, ever, ever does Christ call for his love in our lives to become a burden. He is the chain breaker, right? He is the freedom giver. He's the life giver. Think of him always in that way. And then he paints such a beautiful picture of who he is and what he gives you, this abundant life. Remember John 10:10? We talked about it a lot earlier at the beginning of the year. I have come to give you life, not a life of drudgery, not a life of pain, not a life of all these things. I've come to give you life abundantly. With me, you find freedom, you find joy, you find purpose in your life. All right, guys, have a great day. Love you. Bye.